everyone. Welcome back to another episode with the Crime and Coffee Couple. My name's Allison.
And I'm Mike.
Hi, Mike.
Hey, Al, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Oh, real good, real good. We're really excited because Allison is going to try to get a control of her hormones somehow. So every, couple weeks or whatever, we might have some crying. And we might
Every couple of weeks, really, Mike? Every couple of weeks.
Maybe every day?
No, not every day.
Every weekend?
No,
Every
maybe
week.
once a month.
Okay, you're right. Every few days, there's some problems. And not problems, just challenges. Let's call them challenges.
I'm pretty even keeled for the most part. I'm a baseline, high energy control freak person.
Yeah.
It's maybe a couple of days a month that goes a little off the charts. And then I have terrible insomnia. I'm up anywhere between 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock in the morning. Today was 3. So it's like, I can't start my day at 3 a.m. It's just not healthy. It's not feasible. So I'm going to talk to somebody about, who knows, I'm 45. This is perimenopause.
Yeah, it sure is.
And if something like an estrogen patch or a little progesterone thrown at me helps me out, why the hell not?
And you're currently reading a book? Would you recommend the book at all to anybody?
I finished the book. It's basically what I got from it is that it's not a matter of if you should start hormone therapy, it's when. And obviously there are certain people, and I am not a doctor and I'm certainly not a hormone specialist. There are certain people that can't utilize hormone therapy for whatever reason. That would be a conversation with your doctor, but it's just as your body gets older and estrogen fizzles out, you're at higher risk for other things.
And if I can be honest, it kind of sounds like nature's doing its best to kill off women once they're done procreating.
I mean, your risk of osteoporosis shoots up, your risk of heart disease, etc.
It's almost like nature's like, all right, well, we've had our use with you, so let's break your bones. And
it's like, okay, well, maybe in the 1900, women were only maybe living till 50. Well, so it's like they didn't even live through menopause, perhaps.
You would have been burned as a witch, like very early
I would
on.
have definitely been burned as a witch,
Yeah.
no doubt.
Yeah.
I have a spitfire of a tongue. So I will say, oh, geez, our dog almost fell off the pillow if you're watching this on YouTube. The saying rings true to me that, menopause is inevitable, but the suffering doesn't have to be.
Right.
And I'm fully down for that. It's like I exercise, I maintain my weight, I eat well, I don't drink alcohol, I limit my caffeine. Like, please just let me sleep past 2 a.m., 3 a.m.
You're not asking for much. It's not like you're looking for a miracle pill. You're just looking to do like what humans should be capable of doing.
Right.
Basically.
Like sleeping.
So if any listeners have any suggestions, I mean, you want to look for like an online place basically to get your drugs, to peddle your drugs.
To peddle my drugs. Yeah, it just seems like it's so hard to find places. Like a lot of them are these wellness places that don't take insurance. It's like, I'm not spending $1,000 to feel better. I have insurance. I work and I have insurance.
I think a good portion of our listeners are female. So if you or your mother or somebody you know is like on this like therapy thing, maybe give some suggestions to some online places if you could within YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, any of those.
Yeah. So I'm either going to do an online way or this gynecologist who takes our insurance. So we'll see.
I mean, I could probably figure out the whole gynecology side from some like YouTube videos.
Yeah, we're good.
Can you send in pap smears like via mail?
Well, this isn't for a pap smear, you jackass.
Well, no, but when I hear the word pap smear, I always think of like those slides that you put under like microscopes.
Right.
I always think, all right, just smear it on there. Let's
smear it on
here. All right, we got some yeast going on. Let's kill this yeast.
Oh my God.
As you so often have.
What is wrong with you? I do not.
Oh, I'm not supposed to tell everybody that you have yeast infections?
You're going to have a face infection when my fist smashes in you. As I'm talking about on a previous episode of No Domestic Violence, here I am threatening you.
That's not funny at all.
I'm sorry. That is not funny.
Yeah, not funny.
So are you ready to jump into this? Do you have anything else to add?
No, I think I'm good.
All right, so let's do this. This is the case of Gisele Pellico. This is a listener suggestion from Rebecca. I will give a warning that this case involves not only rape, but mass rape. So if
mass.
Yes.
Wow.
If this is something that, you don't want to hear for whatever reason, I completely understand and I support you shutting this off at this point. Just tune back in for next week. We'll have another episode. So this is a shockingly disturbing case that involves a man in the south of France who pleaded guilty in September of 2024. So literally by the time we're presenting this just a couple months earlier, to charges of secretly drugging his wife of 50 years over the course of nearly a decade. He was filming over 70 men as they had sex with her sedated and unconscious body.
Oh my God.
It's going to shock you. As this case hit the media, many were left to wonder, how could someone do such an unimaginable thing to a person that they apparently loved, someone who trusted them, spent 5 decades of their life by their side? Who were these other men, and how could there possibly be so many men in a localized area that would be willing to rape an unconscious woman?
No, it's there's like, OnlyFans models out there. If you've heard of OnlyFans, it's
I've heard of it,
where you can go to pay people to get naked and stuff. But there's like OnlyFans models that will be like, hey guys, meet up. I'm gonna have a meetup for as many guys as I can get on whatever November something or other.
like in person.
Yeah, in person, and they're on there doing that. Not that I check it out. I see it on TikTok once in a while or something. And it's like, man, like that takes a while to get together, much less like you said, like a localized group that like happen to know about this underground thing where this guy drugs his wife and then you have your way with her. That's like horrible.
Sick. Absolutely sick. So marriage is an institution that has existed for thousands of years. Studies do indicate that a good marriage can actually improve your health. It improves your happiness, while at the same time, reports do suggest that marriage is now on the decline. And as years have gone by and societal expectations and ideals have changed, women are now standing more on their 2 feet than maybe they were 50 years ago. Women are making their own money. They're choosing to have children without a partner. For those that are still for the institution of marriage, it can be a comfort, a security. But in this case, the husband proved to be a diabolical human being, and the details of this case are truly horrifying. So 72-year-old Gisele Pellico,
72 years old,
72, is a mother, a grandmother, and a former logistics manager. She had been married to her husband, this is Dominique Pellico, for 50 years. The couple have 3 children. They have 7 grandchildren together. It was always her belief that she had the perfect husband until her world came tumbling down into what she describes as nothingness. So imagine your life of 50 years as you know it, and to be given the devastating news that your husband has been doing what he was doing. So little did Gisele know that in 2010, Dominique was arrested for filming videos under women's skirts in a supermarket in the Paris region. Because Dominique was simply fined 100 euros for the offense, his wife was never informed of this. She had no idea it happened. At the time, Pellico, and that's what I will refer to him as really through the majority of this case, his name is Dominique Pellico. I'm calling her Gisele, him Pellico. He was ordered to provide a sample of DNA that ended up matching a sample from a drop of blood that was found on the shoe of a victim who had been raped 11 years earlier in 1999 in Villa Parisi. The sample was sent over to the prosecutors who were in charge of the inquiry, but by this time, the case was basically closed and the evidence went ignored.
They're like, nope, sorry, too late.
I don't understand that.
Okay.
So once again, another fact that Gisele was completely unaware of.
That was my next question. Does she know about it?
No idea. So everything came crashing down 10 years later. We're moving to 2020 when Pellico was yet again caught filming videos under women's skirts in a supermarket. This time he was in southern France. He was once again arrested, and unlike in the previous case that happened in 2010, a more thorough investigation was carried out. This was a result of changes, I should say, that happened in 2018. And a law in France cracked down on sexual harassment and made taking photos up women's skirts illegal. So prior to 2018, it wasn't illegal to film up a woman's skirt.
I guess it would be like kind of like you're in public. So like anything that's in public view, but like
it's not in public view.
No, that's true.
Women are walking with skirts that are covering their bodies, and men like him are, planting a camera that's filming up their skirts.
Well, the camera can see it. So like, it's like, what's the difference between taking a picture here? And I would never do it. I'm not trying to defend this. Please don't get crazy.
Yeah. Well, you are defending it though.
But I'm trying to, I'm looking at it legally. I'm not saying like it's definitely wrong to film up women's skirts.
Mind blowing to me that it wasn't illegal before this.
Right.
So during this incident, a woman who was shopping was warned by a security guard that a man had been following her. So this security guard identified suspicious behavior. So he's giving this lady a heads up. Hey, you need to be aware of what's going on because this guy seems to be following you. At this point in time, it was September of 2020, and Pellico had hidden a camera inside a bag in order to take images of several women. And when he was suddenly confronted by the security guard, his phone was seized and the woman filed a complaint with the local police, which is what led to his arrest in this case. So after he was caught and arrested for filming up the skirts of 3 women, as part of the investigation, police were sent to search his home, and this included his electronic devices.
Oh boy.
So it was here that they came across something that shocked them to their cores. They obviously know this guy's a deviant. He's in a supermarket filming up women's skirts. But then they go to his house and it just blew the roof off of what they ever imagined they would find. So here on his computer, they found a folder and it was marked with the title Abuse. And they found thousands of photos and videos of men engaging in sexual acts with Pellico's wife, Gisele, while she fully appeared to be completely unconscious, lying on their bed. So for Gisele, her life as she knew it completely fell apart one afternoon in 2020 when she was summoned to the police station, informed of what they found on her husband's computer.
Oh, so like imagine having no idea about any of this stuff. And then you see, I mean, I'm sure you're going to get into this, but man, you all of a sudden see pictures of yourself.
And you can't imagine, you're like, how am I seeing what I'm seeing? I don't know this person. I don't know how this happened.
Like, this can't be true. This is crazy.
And you're being told it's gone on for almost a decade. So during their meeting, she was shown a still image of a man that was not her husband raping her on her own bed. She's seeing an image of herself on her bed and has no recollection of this moment in time. Can you imagine what this woman must have felt when she saw this?
No.
I can't imagine it.
You're almost like looking at somebody else. Like, do I have a twin out there
Right.
that's like doing this? Like this, there's got to be some hidden camera trick. Like, what's going on?
Make it make sense to me.
Right.
So bombshell after bombshell went off for Gisele as she learned that her husband had been regularly drugging her between July of 2011 and October of 2020. He had been crushing sleeping pills and anti-anxiety medications into his wife's food and drinks that had been prescribed to her. And it was prescribed to her by her doctor. So this is an act of what is known as chemical submission. And chemical submission is when a person is drugged without their knowledge for criminal purposes. So like something like roofies would be considered chemical submission. So during the years of assaults that Gisele was completely unaware of, the men came into contact with Pellico through an online forum called Ah Son and Sue, and that's in France. This translates to without her knowledge.
Holy cow, there's a website dedicated to it.
Yes.
Jeez.
Can you imagine, like, advertising her like she is a piece of meat? So for the next 2 years, police had to comb through these videos. Can you imagine being assigned to that?
Well, I mean, they probably started out already knowing about this website. I'm sure there's police that are already looking at it, right? You would think. Maybe they didn't even know about it, but in this case, now they do.
So now somebody or people are tasked with going through every single photo and video on this man's computer in order to identify and charge the other suspects involved that were coming to the house to do this. So investigators counted about 200 instances of rape, many by her own husband, more than 90 by strangers.
Wow.
So in total, 72 men took part. 51 have been tracked down. The other 21 were not able to be identified by the footage. So I assume their face was obscured and they could not figure out who these men were. So beginning in 2011, the alleged abuses took place in the Pellico home in the quaint medieval French village of Mazan, which has a population of 6,000. So they had followed specific orders so that Gisele would not wake up during these attacks. So they would come to the house and Pellico would be there and he would tell them exactly what needed to be done and how. They could not talk loudly. They had to remove their clothing in the kitchen. They had to warm their hands before touching her. They could not wear any sort of aftershave or have smoked a cigar or a cigarette in the time before they came to the home. And Pellico is said to have cleaned his wife's body after the attacks. So most of the accused live in southeastern France within a 37-mile or 60-kilometer radius of the village of Mazan. So of all the men accused, Gisele recognizes only one, and this is a man who previously came to their home with the premise of discussing cycling with her husband. She occasionally bumped into this same man when she was out running errands. They would exchange pleasantries, and she could have never imagined that this man could possibly be capable of doing what he did. So as of 2024, the men involved range in age between 26 to 74 years old, 48 of which, including Pellico, are charged with aggravated rape of Gisele. One is charged with a lesser charge of sexual assault, another with attempted rape. The accused men vary in career. Some are nurses, there's a journalist, farm workers, a soldier, a local counselor. In addition to the aggravated rape charge, Pellico is also being charged with drugging and accused of taking, recording, or transmitting sexual images of his daughter, his daughter-in-law, and former daughter-in-law.
What a complete deviant, man.
Complete. And nobody knew. Nobody knew.
Wow.
So Pellico's daughter testified and referred to photos of herself asleep that she does not remember being taken. She suspects that her father drugged her and possibly abused her as well, and these are accusations he is denying. So one man in Gisele's case, this is 63-year-old Jean-Pierre. Their last names are being withheld.
Oh, yeah, please.
Yeah, let's protect them.
Right.
So he is accused of following the same model as Pellico. So he drugged his own wife in order to rape her. And Pellico is also being charged with raping this man's wife after she had been drugged. He basically acted as this man's mentor. He provided him with the sedatives, he explained the method, and then Pellico drove to the man's house in order to rape this man's wife on several occasions. He ended up cutting all ties with the couple after the man's wife woke up in the middle of the assault. So another man, this is the youngest of the accused. At the time, he was 22 years old. He was not even present for the premature birth of his daughter, which occurred in November of 2019, because he was over at the Pellico home. So more than a dozen of the men have pleaded not guilty and claimed that they have been tricked into having sex with Pellico's wife.
Yeah.
They indicated that they were lured to the home with a proposition of a threesome. And according to Pellico, Gisele was simply pretending to be asleep because she was shy.
I'll bet you that's like what the website tells you to do. You know, it's
Right.
like, make sure that you say this if you ever get caught, and then you'll be totally fine.
So some indicate that Pellico presented the situation as a couple's fantasy, so they believed that they were simply taking part in an agreed scenario between a husband and a wife who had an open marriage.
No way.
However, one man admits that he did find it strange that Gisele was snoring, and he knew fully that she was unconscious. But he did not realize that that fact did not mean that she hadn't consented. So many of the accused men have no previous criminal records and claim that they did nothing wrong because they believed that what they were doing was consensual since they had permission from her husband. 6 of the accused have convictions of domestic violence. 2 have convictions of sexual violence. A total of 23 have a criminal record for anything ranging from drunk driving to possession of drugs. One man in particular, this is a 43-year-old carpenter. He went to the Pellico home on 2 occasions, once in October of 2019, again in January of 2020. He told the judge that because Pellico told him that his wife was a consenting partner in a sex game, he did not give the matter of her willingness much more consideration. According to this man, he was at the couple's home after he was invited by the husband, and he feels that he is fully innocent of any of the charges. So this is another man. It's a 38-year-old unemployed former agricultural laborer. He is also accused of raping Gisele. This happened on New Year's Eve of 2018. He believes that because he was given permission by the woman's husband, in his mind, she also agreed to it.
Yep.
That's like the running theme of this case.
And it's like, even a husband needs permission from their own wife. So it's not just like you go by the husband.
Like, you don't own me.
Yeah.
Your yes is not my yes. So a 40-year-old computer expert who holds 2 college degrees has a similar excuse for his alleged crime, which happened in June of 2020. He elaborates by saying, "I did not go there with the aim of committing a crime. I had absolutely no idea that Mrs. Pellico was not consenting." According to these men, they genuinely believed that because the husband has given them permission to have sex with his wife, then the wife was available for sex, and what they were doing was not illegal in their eyes. This is what the theme of this trial is becoming.
They're like, "Oh, really? Huh?" And they're like, "All right, guys, save the breath. Like,
Seriously.
It's, let's get ahead of it. Let me guess. You thought that it would be okay because the husband said it was okay." It's like, yeah, really? Isn't that what everybody does?
So 50-year-old Cyril D., he is a butcher. He is also accused of raping Gisele in her home. This happened in September of 2019. The man had been placed in the foster system as a teen. He was raised by his abusive alcoholic father before that. He admits to raping Gisele when his partner and the mother of his children was away on holiday. He indicates that he turned to the chat room where Pellico was, advertising this whole situation in order to console himself since he was sexually frustrated.
Ah, poor guy.
Seriously. Despite the fact that Pellico was insistent that the arrangement was okay, after he did what he did, he realized that he had not gained Gisele's consent, as she had been clearly unconscious when everything was happening. He indicates that during his time behind bars, he understood that women do not belong to men.
Oh, good job, man.
This is a new thought for you?
Congratulations. So just to be clear, we're not like, this isn't the 1800s or anything?
Thank you.
Yeah, this is like current day,
This
basically.
is current day.
Okay.
This is all coming out in 2024.
Okay.
So during this particular attack, Gisele's lawyer said that the video evidence showed that at this point in time, her life was actually in danger when she was being assaulted by this man because she risked not being able to breathe. So 44-year-old Lionel R, worked at the Pellico's local grocery store. He is a married father of 3 who made contact with Pellico and also admits to raping Gisele, but elaborates that he never intended to commit rape. The court heard that Pellico specifically brought his wife to the grocery store where this man worked so that Lionel could see her and see if he was attracted to her and wanted to, whether or not he was going to agree to the arrangement. So she was basically pranced through this grocery store so that this guy could see her and be like, okay, yeah, I want to go through with this.
Yeah, I'll buy her.
Sickening. So Dominique Pellico managed to fool so many people in his life, including his friends and relatives, all of who believed that he had a happy family.
I mean, 50 years marriage, it's like, it doesn't mean every 50-year of marriage is in great shape,
Right.
but it seemed like they thought they were.
Yes. So everyone believed that he had a normal, happy family life, a healthy marriage. Because of this, some feel that it's plausible that the men thought that they were dealing with a normal spouse who had an unusual kink, and that, they had this arrangement set up and, Gisele would pretend to be asleep during this encounter. Who knows what the truth is?
Yeah.
The issue lies in the fact, though, that these men believed that husbands are allowed to grant access to their wives' bodies. And this begs the question, what does it say about society that men still allow husbands this sort of authority over another person?
Yeah.
As if, your word has anything to do with mine.
I mean, these are obviously guys that have real sexual problems.
Right.
We're not going to see the guys on film that were like, wait, your wife's not even conscious, so I'm going to leave.
Right.
This is weird.
What's going on here?
Yeah, the ones that were like, no, I'm already, all turned on over here. I'm going to do it no matter what. Those are the guys that we got on film.
Yeah, and the point is, it's like over 70 men, all within the same area, that all thought that this was okay. That's baffling.
Not like they're flying in from other countries and stuff.
No. So 14 of the 51 accused admit to raping Gisele. Some have apologized, which Gisele only views as an attempt for them to excuse themselves.
Yeah.
Some suspect that Pellico has even drugged them, and a shocking number said that they were sexually abused as minors. 2 of the accused indicated that they were gay. When they went to the Pellico home, it was their goal to actually sleep with Dominique. Not a single one of the 51 accused sounded the alarm, though, when they did realize, and not when I say 51, it's 70 something. Not one single of these men contacted authorities, even anonymously, to say, hey, just so you know, this is going on at this house.
And you can say it's probably because they didn't want to be found out that they had this weird kink or whatever. But like, really, like if you want to be a decent human being and you know there's something illegal going on here, you probably should let somebody know.
And one single anonymous phone call could have ended the abuse long before Gisele was made aware of what was happening in 2020 when he was found on a completely unrelated incident of filming up women's skirts in a grocery store.
You can like go to a payphone and just call in and be like, I'm not saying my name, but just know this.
Right. So before the bombshell of this information was dropped on Gisele, she believed that her life with her husband was happy and fulfilling. She had no worry that anything could have possibly been wrong.
And same with their daughter? Like they all thought they had a pretty good family?
Yes.
Ugh.
So over the course of their 50 years of marriage, they raised their children together. She considered him a caring father, a kind man that she trusted. He was well liked by their friends. They shared holidays, birthdays, milestones together over the course of 5 decades. She trusted her husband implicitly and viewed their sex life as completely normal. Pellico has since confessed to the 1999 sexual assault on an estate agent in the Paris region of Villa Parisi. This is the one that he was a match to. He is also under investigation in connection to the rape and murder, not just rape, but murder, of a 23-year-old named Sophie Narmi, also an estate agent that happened in Paris in 1991. He is denying involvement in this case, and sadly, forensic scientists did find sperm that could have provided the DNA to pinpoint the killer, but the evidence was destroyed by a forensic laboratory shortly after it was obtained.
Nice job.
They no longer have the ability to say, yes, he's our guy in this case.
Jeez, that sucks.
So during both cases, the attacker placed an ether-soaked cloth over the victim's face in order to render them unconscious.
Yeah, this guy's sick.
So many people believe that a predator such as Pellico does not wait until retirement to become one. They want investigators to focus on the man's activities between 1999 and 2011 when he started this whole debacle and disgusting thing with drugging his wife.
Well, yeah, and also not to mention a man's libido, isn't at the highest point when he's like 70. Like, I'm sure he did some really bad stuff when he's 20s and 30s.
Right. Think about what he did when he was younger. So French media outlets indicate that investigators are planning to compare Pellico's DNA to find out, that there's a lot of other attacks. Specifically, there's 6 other female estate agents across France that occurred between 1991 and 2004. During these attacks, 5 of the victims were sexually assaulted and 1 was murdered. So in the 4 years that Gisele prepared for this trial, because of course she was told of what happened in 2020, the trial was happening this year in 2024. She could not wrap her head around how the man that she considered the perfect man could do this to her. She acknowledges that, of course, anytime you're spending 5 decades with a person, it's not always going to be peaches and cream and rainbows and roses. They had their share of ups and downs. She admits to this. She describes a short period of divorce over what she calls business reasons before they ended up getting remarried. For 3 years, Gisele also admits that she had an extramarital affair with a colleague of hers. She recalls that when she confessed to her husband, they were standing in the bathroom. She indicated that he had his suspicions, and her admission hit him very hard. So then they questioned, do you think maybe he did what he did as sort of like revenge or retaliation? And Gisele says she does not believe this to be the case, and this is something that Pellico also says, no, it has nothing to do with the fact that my wife did have an affair.
I'm just really weird, and I get into a lot of freaky garbage things.
Yes. So psychiatric experts who have evaluated Pellico believe that he has what is called paraphilic tendencies. Paraphilic disorders are recurrent sexually arousing fantasies, urges, or behaviors that are distressing or disabling and involve inanimate objects, children, or non-consenting adults, or suffering or humiliation of the person or partner with, potential to cause them harm.
Those are a lot of like topics.
Right, it is. And a lot of dark topics. Like we're talking about pedophilia, necrophilia. It's not good. So they indicate that he is a man who is consumed by fantasies. And, these are very similar to necrophilia because if you think about it, you're engaging in sexual acts with somebody that's completely unconscious.
Yeah, has no idea what's going on.
And he has a complete lack of empathy. Dr. Paul Ben-Susan testified that Pellico is aroused by watching a partner having sex with others. Another expert indicated that he was excited about his wife being degraded by men that he knew little or nothing about. It is also being questioned if Dominique Pellico suffers from an inferiority complex. One video depicted him condescendingly referring to his wife as bougie. So it's like he was talking down to her when she was unconscious. Dominique and Gisele came from very different backgrounds. He grew up in what was considered a dysfunctional environment. He had been working since age 13, and when he was working, he had to give 80% of what he earned to his father, whereas Gisele came from a more privileged, traditional, loving home. Gisele acknowledges that beyond the loss of her mother, she was raised in a very loving home, and this is in stark contrast to the home where her husband lived with his tyrannical, authoritarian father.
Were they both French?
Yes.
Wow.
So he has also indicated that at age 9, he allegedly suffered sexual assault. When the two met, her family became, a respite for him. It was like this warm, safe environment. His father-in-law even got him a job within the real estate business. Despite the trauma that she was dealing with, she waived her legal right to anonymity and insisted that her trial be held open to the public. Something that is not at all typical of how sexual assault cases are handled specifically in France.
Very courageous.
Very courageous. This woman is a freaking badass. So she wanted to make a statement that victims such as herself should never feel shame, and rather every piece of shame should be placed on the sexual attackers.
Good for her.
She wants her story to change society in hopes that she can help other victims. And in making this decision, Gisele was aware that all of these videos that were filmed by her husband would be shown during the trial, something that she obviously knew would be difficult but also necessary. She remained firm on being the symbol of the fight against sexual violence and told the court, "I have decided not to be ashamed. I have done nothing wrong."
Absolutely.
And it is her goal not to express and spread hate throughout this process because she easily could do that, but instead just make necessary changes in society to prevent this from happening to other victims.
Well, you know what? It was almost, we mentioned in another episode, like the older you get, the less you kind of give a crap about what people think about you. So she's like 72 and she's like, man, whatever. You like to get it out there. And if it helps another person, then, whatever. And she's exactly right. It's not her fault at all.
She did nothing wrong. She existed in her home with her husband of 50 years.
She tried to be a loving wife and got screwed over by your piece of garbage husband.
So protests have been held across France to show support for Gisele, and many women have expressed their admiration for her bravery and courage. She feels her decision is not one of courage, she's diminishing that, but rather determination. Gisele acknowledges that this is not her battle, but the battle of all rape victims.
Yeah.
Gisele admits that at age 72, she is uncertain as to how she is going to rebuild her life when at the moment it feels completely destroyed. She went on to say, "I'm not sure my life will be long enough to recover from this." Regardless of how the rest of her days are rebuilt, it remains her goal to be an inspiration to other victims who might say, "Mrs. Pellico did it, and we can do it too."
Heck yeah.
She realizes that when a person has been violated in such a way, there's a lot of shame. And it's a matter of taking that shame and shifting it from the victim to the rapist, where it should be. But I do not, this woman to me, it like honestly gives me chills to just think of how courageous that she is.
Yeah, absolutely. No,
She's so like little and tiny and fierce.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this woman is a freaking badass.
whatever she wants to say to how we should take her, that's fine. She makes this. She makes the rules here.
Absolutely. So Gisele, who has since divorced her husband,
Good.
noted that she would have never, ever imagined that her husband was a rapist. And now she realizes that rapists aren't always what we picture them to be.
You're not going to have a big sign on their shoulders saying, hey, I'm a rapist.
Sometimes they're the person in your living room, your neighbor next door, rather than a person you meet in a dark car park late at night. He can be someone found among family and friends. After learning of her husband's crimes, she walked out of their shared home with nothing more than 2 suitcases, a moment that she recalls as all that was left for me of 50 years of life together is in these 2 suitcases. And granted, she has children and grandchildren as well.
Yeah.
Pellico has admitted to the charges against him and said, I am a rapist, like the others in this room.
Well, that's good.
Right.
That he admitted it, and you think it'd be nice and easy to get him in jail.
Right. And so the trial is being held in Avignon and expected to run until December 20th of 2024. His admission is clear. That's not the question here. It's his court testimony that will be crucial for the panel of judges to decide the fate of the 50 other men that are on trial alongside him. If found guilty, the defendants face up to 20 years in prison, which is the maximum sentence for rape in France, unless a victim has been tortured or killed.
How do you have a maximum like on something like that?
I don't know.
Like, like in a scenario like this, I think this would be worth looking into longer than that scenario.
And I think that's the hope that with this case, the shocking case, that maybe some very, very necessary changes will be made.
Well, similar to the up the dress rule change. It's like we didn't feel we need to make a law to say that was illegal, but here you go. Here's the law saying this is illegal.
Right.
And now we need to make it a bigger punishment if you want to get your wife raped by 50 men. Like, that's insane.
And I guess you could say better late than never. I know it's 2024. We're coming to an end in 2024. You expect that these things will all be in place. You can't change the past. You can only move forward. So Pellico told the judges, one is not born a pervert. One becomes a pervert. He said that, he looks back at an occasion. I had mentioned it before. He was 9 years old. He was raped by a male nurse in the hospital. And when he thinks back to his youth, he recalls many shocks and traumas. He went on to admit that his wife never deserved what he did to her. He said, I was crazy about her. She replaced everything. I ruined everything.
Wow.
Throughout the years of the attacks, Gisele contracted 4 sexually transmitted diseases, as none of the men wore protection. So can you imagine her confusion to be dealing with what she dealt with and have no association with how this could be happening?
No, that's crazy.
So the presiding judge over the case wanted to understand how the 70-year-old defendant managed to get his wife to unknowingly ingest the drugs for such an extensive period of time without arousing her suspicions. So Pellico indicated that he was the one responsible for the cooking in their marriage. And oftentimes while he was cooking, Gisele was in the other room and she wouldn't have seen what he was doing. He indicated that sometimes she had her doubts, but for the most part, it had been what he considers to be relatively easy. I'm sure there were times when she was like, man, what? I don't even remember last night. I was so tired.
Yeah.
So he went on to say that once his wife was in a state of deep sleep, he would remove her pajamas and redress her according to everyone's desires. Pellico said that the effects of the drugs would typically last just about 5 hours. And after his guest, is what he called it, left the house, he still had plenty of time to put things back into place. He would wash Gisele's body, he would redress her into the pajamas she was in bed in, and he would do laundry. The items of clothing he dressed his wife in during the attacks were hidden in a bag that was stored in their garage. The judge asked Pellico how he was able to live with himself and spend a day after what happened in the night next to her. And he claimed, the judge is like, you claim to have loved this woman more than anything. How could you look at her over breakfast?
Actions speak louder than words.
He didn't elaborate and only said the days after were hard. She was not in good shape. How tragic is that?
That's horrible. It's like unimaginable. Like if a movie was made about this, you'd be like, yeah, right.
Right.
Like some husband would do that to their wife.
And that's why when, Amanda shared this case, I started looking into it because I had never heard of it. And it's like an active trial. I couldn't even believe what my eyes were reading. I couldn't even believe it. So Gisele has no memory of the abuse that she was subjected to and indicates that over the years, she began to experience terrifying things that were happening to her, what she thought was happening to her health. Of these unexplained symptoms. She began to lose her hair. She lost weight. At times, she spoke incoherently as a result of the drugs. She feared that she was developing potentially a brain tumor, maybe Alzheimer's disease. She didn't know why it was happening to her. So Gisele recalls that she would have a glass of white wine with her husband while they ate their dinner. She never suspected that there was anything strange being placed into her food or beverages. When they finished eating, Pellico would go off. He would watch a football match on TV. Before he settled in, he would do something that she viewed as very sweet. He would bring his wife her favorite raspberry ice cream as she relaxed in bed. As she ate her ice cream, she reflected, how lucky I am. He's a love. How sad is that?
It kills you.
It makes me want to cry.
Like she's like, it's like she's being grateful about everything. Just like, oh, I've got an awesome family, a great husband that cares about me.
Right. And it is those little sweet moments in marriage because we've been married for 22 years. You get caught up in the mundane tasks of life. Sometimes you forget to do the sweet things you used to do, however many years before. So sometimes like when you leave me my coffee cup out with the coffee on top ready to go in the morning, I'm like, oh my gosh, he thought of me. Something as simple as that, wow, this person took a moment to think of me. Yeah. And that's what she thought as she sat in bed eating her favorite raspberry ice cream that her husband brought for her.
And you would just hear that and you'd be like, that's super cute. They're such a good couple. Yeah.
Dominique thought of her.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, that ice cream was spiked with drugs.
Yeah.
Sick.
Scumbag.
Gisele never felt anything at all. She would only remember waking up with her pajamas on, assuming that she quickly fell asleep. Sometimes she did wake up feeling exceptionally groggy. She felt extra tired in the morning, but she would just try to chalk it up to something. Maybe I walked a lot yesterday. You want to make sense of what's happening.
Yeah.
You don't think your husband's drugging you.
And like you said, she's getting older. So it's like, well, maybe my brain's just not what it used to be.
Exactly. So there is hope within the country of France that with Gisele's case, changes will be made in controversial laws governing sexual consent. And it wasn't until a previously high-profile rape case trial in 1980 that triggered a change. The crime of rape in France had been narrowly defined as a Napoleon-era law, which is called illicit coitus with a woman who is known not to consent. It wasn't until 2021 that France introduced a legal age of sexual consent. And it only came after a public outcry about the rape of an 11-year-old schoolgirl by a man who was initially convicted of only the lesser charge of simple sexual assault.
Jeez.
This case has implemented the law that having sex with anyone under age 15 as being non-consensual because they're freaking children and they can't consent.
Yep.
Unlike other European countries, France does not refer to consent in cases involving other older victims, such as Gisele. The fact that she wasn't conscious and able to consent for herself.
Doesn't matter.
They're only looking at under age 15 as being consent. So, the hope is that this case will blow the lid off of this and make changes.
Yeah, that's kind of old.
Right. According to a study by the Institute of Public Policies, only 14% of rape accusations in France lead to formal investigations.
It's almost like it's
14.
part of the culture or something. Like, yeah, and I don't mean to say that, but it's like, and people that live in France that listen to this, like, help us understand. Or if you've ever lived in France or spent time there, like, if you have any insight, let us know.
Right. The law is written in a way that defines a true rape as that from an unknown attacker, use of violence, and the victim's resistance.
Well, an unknown attacker,
I should
too.
say.
Like, most rapes are done by somebody you know.
Right. So this is only occurring in a minority of the cases.
Right.
So a lot of concerning things are being missed.
Wow. So like here in America, it's completely different. It's
Right,
like
completely
consent.
different.
It's based on the consent from either party. And
If I say no, I effing mean no. Don't effing touch me.
right.
Seriously, I just get so pissed off about this. I don't know who these people think they are to take from a woman who is clearly unconscious. But the husband said it was fine. What the hell is wrong with you? This case has highlighted the fact that the monster often hides next door, a seemingly typical, unassuming person. Gisele has thanked those that have rallied around her in support, and she said, "I dedicate this fight to all the people, men, women, and men throughout the world who are victims of sexual violence. To all of these victims, I want to say to them today, look around you, you are not alone." Love should not hurt. Love should not manipulate. Love should not be drugging your partner's food and allowing other men into your home to sexually assault them. Whatever it looks like, no one deserves domestic abuse.
Yeah, that's the opposite of love.
Yeah, that is the opposite of love. And if you or someone you know is in need of assistance, help is available 24/7 at the National Domestic Violence Hotline. And I'm starting to get choked up because it just makes me so sad to think that there are so many people living out there with partners who should be loving them, and they're getting the opposite. And it truly breaks my heart. And I am sorry if you are listening to this and that includes you. My heart really does break for you, and you deserve love. I'm telling you that. You deserve to be loved. And I know the monster in your life who is making you think that you don't, that is their goal. Their goal is to make you feel small and isolated, but help is there and people care, and they will rally around you just like they're rallying around Gisele right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. Unfortunately, it's guaranteed there's people listening to this.
I know that.
Through it.
People have commented about it, that this was me, and I understand it. I can't understand how scary and dangerous it could be to get out of a relationship like that, because I recognize the fact that the most dangerous time in these relationships is when you are trying to get help. But please contact the National Domestic Violence Hotline. It is their job to help you do so safely. Help is available 24/7. You can call 1-800-799-7233, or you could text BEGIN to 88788. And that is the case of Gisele Pellico. The trial is still actively ongoing. The guess is that they're anticipating wrapping up right around December 20th of this year.
And hopefully all those scumbags go to jail.
Yes, absolutely.
Horrible story.
Unbelievably horrible story. And, Gisele knows that it is her mission that things change.
Yeah.
And, that other people can be protected, or if something terrible happens to them, their attacker actually gets, justice.
And I'm sorry, Gisele, but you are brave. So
100%.
Thank you so much for telling your story. And this, I guarantee you, she's helped some other women and maybe men, in similar positions. And like you keep on saying that the attacker could be in your neighborhood or could be in your very bedroom, like sleeping right next to you. Yeah, that's crazy.
Exactly.
So just keep your head on a swivel. And there's nothing Gisele could have done or known. But
of course not. She had no idea what was happening. And I can't imagine what she must have felt in that interrogation room or the police station or whatever, where she was shown that still image of herself. And you're looking at the image thinking, what? That's me. Right. That's my bed.
Insane.
And then to learn that your husband was responsible for this. I can't imagine. And she could have easily taken a private trial, and she is an amazing human and said, nope, because I did nothing wrong.
Yep, that's so right. And thank you so much for telling our story, and hopefully it helps some other listeners out there. And if you like what we do, then please help support us, whether it's a like on YouTube, or you can leave a comment on Spotify or on our Facebook page or anything like that. Or if you want to become a patron, have a couple bucks extra scratch, go ahead and get yourself access to over 100.
Yeah, it's a lot of bonus episodes.
It's almost 100 bonus episodes. So
yeah, for a month.
Settle in. You're going to have a lot of time off in the holidays. Go ahead, get yourself a little subscription just for a month, maybe a month or two. Who knows?
Who knows? Or you could even did you mention the 3-day free trial or whatever? My coworker actually did that. She and her husband were traveling to the Everglades, which is a 3-hour drive. So they did the trial so that they would just binge 3 hours down, 3 hours back.
And that's on Apple Podcasts. Check it out.
Yeah. So we appreciate you guys so much for being here. Thank you. Thank you. And I know we're in the thick of the holiday season. Just be well, manage stress, take care of yourselves. And until next time, bye.